Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon and The Blackest Heart, both books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today, I'm going to be counting down my top 10 thriller novels of all time. This is a video that many of you have been asking me for. And as usual, I couldn't just narrow it down to 10. I picked out all my favorite thrillers. And by the way, I made up a rule. What is a thriller? Is a thriller like a Stephen King book, a horror novel? Is a thriller like an Agatha Christie murder mystery? Or is a thriller like Robert Ludlum, Bourne Identity International Espionage? I think it's espionage. What constitutes a thriller? So for this list, keep in mind, I kept this list to books that specifically dealt with international espionage as its baseline plot. No murder mysteries, no horror novels, no, Dean Koontz psychological or supernatural thriller stuff. If there's supernatural stuff going on in the book, or if there's murder mysteries going on in the book, I've done other top 10 lists for those type of books. This list is simply thriller novels. Like your Jack Ryan, Tom Clancy, Jack Reacher type stuff. Jason Bourne. That's what we're angling for. And like I said, I couldn't keep it to just 10 books. I couldn't keep the list to 15 books. So you're gonna get, even though the title of this video is Top 10 Thrillers of All Time, it's actually gonna be my top 20 thrillers of all time. So let's get started with the several honorable mentions that I probably would have put in my top 20 had they fit. And that would have been, just recently, I read James Rollins' The Black Order. I'm only 4 books into his Sigma Force series. This is book 3. I thought it was the best of the 4 I've read, and it probably could have made my top 20 list, but it just fell outside. But I did want to give it an honorable mention. Another honorable mention is, well, there's 2 here. Honestly, a true top 20 thriller novel thing I would have, most of them would be John le Carre books. But I couldn't have a top 20 list with just 20 John le Carre books. So I got a couple of my favorite John le Carre books here that didn't quite make the list. That is The Night Manager and The Constant Gardener. If you have read these, you know what I'm talking about. Even if you've seen the movies, you know what I'm talking about. But John le Carre could have, of the 30 John le Carre books I've read, 20 of them could have easily fit in my top 10 thrillers of all time. But I wanted to leave space for other authors. Same with Ken Follett. I could have put a dozen Ken Follett thrillers on my top 10 list too, but you just can't fit them all. So I wanted to give Night Over Water an honorable mention. It just barely didn't make the top 20. But let's get to the real top 20 right now. And coming in at number 20. Oh, and we're starting off in strong, high fashion. That is The Bourne Identity by Robert Ludlum. The classic thriller. I mean, when people think of thrillers, they think of Robert Ludlum. And when they think of Robert Ludlum, they think of The Bourne Identity and the Bourne trilogy. So let's put that at number 20. If this is number 20, you know I've got some dynamite books coming up. So we'll put that one right there at number 20. Number 19 is a book I just recently reread. I read this first in the mid-1990s, and it blew me away. I just reread it a month or 2 ago, and you probably saw my review for Spandau Phoenix by Greg Iles. A great globe-spanning World War II thriller set in World War II and 1987. Just an absolutely magnificent book. worthy of the number 19 spot. Coming in at number 18 is Daniel Silva's The Kill Artist. I am hugely invested into Daniel Silva's Gabriel Allon international espionage thriller. Gabriel Allon is a character that solves world problems. He saves the world in every book. As a side job, he is an art restorer. He restores very precious artworks for the Vatican, for, the Louvre Museum. Great. This is book number 1 in the Gabriel Allon series. Number 17. I've got to go with Jack Reacher. The first book in Lee Child's Jack Reacher series, The Killing Floor. Or I think just Killing Floor. I don't think there's a "the" in front of it. Jack Reacher. Just the dude is like everyone's like male fantasy superhero. And he just goes into town and kicks ass. He's the lone drifter. And we all want to be the lone drifter. Dennis Lehane, my favorite mystery writer of all time. He wrote one true thriller. It was Shutter Island. Magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. It's got that, it's not a book about the supernatural at all, although you kind of think it might be as you're reading it. And it's just got one of those great, great Sixth Sense-like twists at the end. Shutter Island by Dennis Lehane. Although we're not, doing international espionage in this book, we kind of actually are. Nilsen DeMille, Cathedral. Again, there could have probably been about a dozen Nilsen DeMille books make my international thriller top 10 list, but I chose Cathedral because I remember when I first read it as a young person, I was just blown away. I got to reread this and give a review of it soon. I just know it's about the Irish Liberation Army and a cathedral. It's just absolutely a great, great thriller. I think it's his best thriller. Put that one right there. We're down to 13, 14. I don't know where we're at, but Red Sparrow by Jason Matthews. Red Sparrow. This thing, I just was hooked to every single word of this. This book is about the Red Sparrow program in Russia, where the Russian army was training all the beautiful women in Russia to become international spies and to use their sexiness to get information out of other, diplomats of the other countries. Red Sparrow, maybe you saw the movie with Jennifer Lawrence. I thought it was a pretty good movie. Even better book. Red Sparrow, a great, great thriller. Probably one of the best debut thrillers I've ever read by Mr. Jason Matthews. I think this would be number 13. Polar Star by Martin Cruz Smith. Yeah, now most of Martin Cruz Smith's books are mysteries. This one is kind of too a murder mystery, but and they're all set in Moscow. But I liked this one because the mystery that's involved really takes place out on the open ocean and involves a lot of international intrigue and thriller type situations. Polar Star, it's my favorite Martin Cruz Smith book. Right after Gorky Park, Gorky Park could have actually made this list too, but I went with Polar Star instead. Oh, another magnificent debut thriller, probably another one of the great debuts of all time, and this one came out like 4 years ago, and that's The Terminal List by Jack Carre, probably the hottest new thriller writer in the genre, on the planet, whatever you want to call it. But The Terminal List, right now there's 4 books out in his series. It is the ex-Navy SEAL James Reese goes out, takes names, kicks ass, saves the world in every book. Great, great series. And if you want to get started early on with a great series of thriller novels, just look up Jack Carre, get his first 4, and then you'll be off and running, because I'm sure he's a young guy. He just got out of the Navy SEALs and start himself. Jack Carre was an ex-Navy SEAL. He just recently retired from the Navy SEALs and has now started this new career, so you can get in on the ground floor. That is number 12. Number 11, about to the top 10. Number 11, another great debut thriller, but this one goes back about 20 years. And this is Brad Thor's The Lions of Lucerne. This is book number 1 in his Scott Harvath thriller series. There's about 22 books now. He writes one a year. This one came out in probably 2002 or something like that. I don't know. But it's still probably his most solid book that he's written. The Lions of Lucerne, a great entry point into the Scott Harvath universe. We will put down here on our... Now, this one goes up here on the top. So there's our number 20 through 11. Let's get to our top 10 that I promised you 11 minutes ago. A Simple Plan by Scott Smith. This probably made my top 10 mystery novel list too. I didn't go back and check. It is just one of my favorite novels of all time. It's absolutely just a great thriller. Even though we're not dealing with a lot of international intrigue in this is more of like international intrigue has plopped itself down into a small community, and just a family itself is sort of dealing with international events and how it changes them. Just an absolutely brilliant thriller novel. Number 9. Lord have mercy. Number 9, I Am Pilgrim by Terry Hayes. Terry Hayes might be the Pat Rothfuss of thriller writers, or maybe even the George R.R. Martin of thriller writers, because he wrote this absolutely perfectly paced, gripping, edge-of-your-seat thriller called I Am Pilgrim about 10 years ago, and he's been promising us a sequel ever since. And we haven't seen it. It's not even listed on Amazon. Well, actually, once in a while, it pops up on Amazon as coming out soon. But then it gets deleted. So I don't know what is going on. But this is an absolutely great thriller. So right at the moment, this is a standalone thriller. And it is... I just can't even get over how good this thing was. It's about a New York City cop and, terrorism coming out of Saudi Arabia. Just absolutely perfect. It's number 9. Number 8. All right, this one I broke the rules for just a little bit. This one does have some supernatural elements in it. And the supernatural element we're talking about is time travel. But I wanted to have this author's books. It's just the 11/22/63 by Stephen King. I consider this an international thriller because it's about the assassination of John F. Kennedy, mixed with some time travel. But one of my favorite books of all time, one of my top 5 Stephen King books of all time. I honestly broke the rules to throw this one in. But I'm not going to apologize. Because it's a damn fine book. Number 7. What come in at number 7? Gone Girl. It's not really an international thriller either, but it is a thriller. It's about a girl that's missing. So technically it's not a murder mystery. But from the opening sentence of this book to the close, I was never more stunned by how beautifully a thriller novel could be written than just this. This is just absolutely gorgeous prose mixed with a story with some creepy people in it and thriller stuff, elements. I might have broke the rules a little bit with that one too. The rules are meant to be broken. Wow, I thought this one would have come in higher. What are we at? Number 10, 9, 8, 7. This is number 6. I actually thought this would be in my top 3, but I guess it's in my top 6. John Grisham, The Firm. This was the first ever John Grisham book I read, probably back in 1990 when it was super hot. It was like the hot new thing. John Grisham was the hot new writer on the scene back then, and I got this and I read it and I was like, God damn, that was fucking awesome. this thing, like, I hadn't breezed through this so fast. It was so gripping. The Firm, I mean, and then again, John Grisham's another one of those writers where 5 or 6 of his other books should technically fit in my top 10, but I can't fit everything. But I did think I would go with the, at least The Firm. That is my favorite of the John Grisham books. Are we to 5 now? Top 5. What made my top 5? The Power of the Dog by Don Winslow. Oh, Lord have mercy. If you've read this, this is the most realistic of the thriller novels. Now, most of these other thriller novels on my list, most of them have like this fantasy element to them where there's an ex-Navy SEAL that kicks ass, or their Jack Reacher just kicks ass, or Jason Bourne just kicks ass. Everybody just kicks ass and saves the world. This thriller is not about kicking ass and saving the world. This thriller is actually about how our world is going to hell in a handbasket, and it's really going fast. All because of the Mexican cartels and illicit drug trade and the America's appetite for cocaine and crack and marijuana and everything else. And it's just, and you read this and you see how those Mexican cartels just treat the citizens of Mexico and anybody that gets in their way, and they're just so brutal and evil and awful and horrible. And the United States' answer to the problem is just ass fucking backwards to reality, and it just drives us further and further into a cesspool of shit and garbage. I'm telling you, this is not a feel-good thriller. But you gotta read it if you want to understand our war on drugs. How fucking pointless it is. Tom Clancy, number 4. Patriot Games has always been my favorite Tom Clancy book. The Cardinal of the Kremlin comes in second. That one should have made the list too. Hell, there's a dozen Tom Clancy books that I could have thrown on this list. But we'll go with Patriot Games because it's my favorite one. Jack Ryan. You know the story of Patriot Games. Harrison Ford played Jack Ryan in a movie. My top 3, let's go with Eye of the Needle, Ken Follett. The perfect World War II thriller right here. The absolute perfect World War II thriller. From the opening sentence to the last, it will just leave you breathless. I can't say enough about this. Ken Follett's one of my top 5 authors of all time, so. Where are we going? Top 2. Which books are going to make the top 2? I think you're going to be surprised. Some of you are going to be surprised. Some of you are going to be thrilled. Some of you are going to be disappointed and be like, how in the you like that writer, Durfee? Because, okay. So, this one I think will be agreeable. Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy by John le Carre. This is his masterpiece of Cold War espionage. This is the most realistic look at spycraft that's ever been written. John le Carre was an spy out of England, and when he retired, well, actually he didn't retire. He started writing books in the middle of his career and actually retired because he started making so much money on his books. But he was a spy, a real spy, and he gets into the spycraft and the reality of it. And Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy, like I said, is his masterpiece. Although every one of his books is a masterpiece unto itself. John le Carre is the literary version of Robert Ludlum and every other thriller novel I've got here. This is absolute literature. The writing is just beautiful. Okay, folks, some of you are going to have to put your seatbelts on for this. Some of you are just going to have to strap yourselves down into your chair, because as soon as I show you this book, my number 1 thriller of all time, you're going to jump out of your seat in horror, anger, and madness. Because you're going to be like, how the does that make anyone's top 10 list on any list of books? But to understand the brilliance of this book that I'm about to show you, all you need do is go back about 20 years and Look at the thousands and thousands of writers that tried to copy this man's success and failed miserably, because this dude captured lightning in a bottle. And believe it or not, in my opinion, and the opinion of 100 million other people that bought this book, this is a dynamite thriller. And that is the Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. It is the best thriller I've ever read. I love everything about it. I think it is written super crisp, super brilliantly. The characters are fine. Most people, that's where they have the problem. I think the characters do the job to work our way through this thriller novel just perfectly, and all the Illuminati, Knights Templar, who's Jesus Christ really type of international intrigue, and I love the puzzles. The puzzles that this guy put in this book are second to none, and the only way you know they're second to none is because zillions of other writers tried to mimic what Dan Brown did, and they failed miserably at it, because Dan Brown did it best. He did it first, and it is my favorite thriller of all time. If you've got thrillers that you like, go ahead and type them into the commenty part of the page, and we'll see you next time, folks.